So I think everybody should be able to see my screen. Um, and we're going to get started. So I am Emily Haynes. I'm the program manager for this grant. I also manage a bunch of other grants with our office. I run the Shannon CSI program, the municipal staffing grant, just to name a few. And then also on the call is our division manager, Beth Flynn. She's right there. She's been really helpful with this process as well. And so, yeah, so we're going to get started. So the agenda for today, we just did some of our introductions. We're going to go over the grant briefly. You all seem to have a really good idea of what your programming is like, so I'm not going to spend too long on that. We're primarily here to kind of go over how you're going to be reporting to us, how you're going to get reimbursed, how to fill out the forms that we have for you. We also have Steve from our fiscal team on the call, and he's going to walk you guys through kind of like a mock report towards the end of the call so that you can see how that gets done. If you have any questions throughout the presentation, please just put them in the chat, and then we will get to all those questions at the end. So we have some time set aside at the end for questions as well. So that is it. So here's a little grant overview, the state legislation that is governing these funds. This is the legislative language that kind of created this programming for our office. I'm not going to go through this word for word, but just kind of wanted to include it so you guys can see where it came from. So for this grant, there are 14 awardees total, and our total amount was $380,000. The grant project period is the start date till June 30th. So the start date is the date that our executive director, Kevin Stanton, signed your standard contract form. So all expenses have to be obligated between these two dates. And that's going to kind of come into play a little bit more when we start going over the reporting forms and invoices and all of that. So here's just a quick glance at the reporting schedule. Now we're going to go into detail on all these reports that I'm mentioning here. So that's coming. I just kind of wanted to give you guys like an overlook at what our reporting periods look like. So Q1 is going to be your contract start date, which is what we just went over. And that goes until March 31st. And then those reports are due to us on April 15th. So any expenditures that happened between the start date and March 31st, or any activity, that goes into Q1. Q2 starts on April 1 and goes until June 30th, which is the grant end date. And those reports will be due to us on July 15th. So each reporting period, your agency is going to submit a quarterly report to our office. This quarterly report consists of a Part A, which is like a programmatic section, and then there's a Part B, which is a financial section. And submission of these reports is required in order for us to reimburse your agency. So we have to get these reports in order to be able to reimburse you. So this is a little bit about the reimbursement process. I know some people have already asked, like, how are we going to get reimbursed for this? It's a very valid question. So once we have approved the quarterly reports that you've submitted to us, we will then go ahead and make the payment. So pretty much the way that it works is whatever you show for expenditures on that Q1 financial report, that's how much you are requesting for reimbursement from our office. So if your Q1 report shows that you spent $1,000, we will go through that report. Our team and our fiscal team make sure everything looks good. We'll approve that, and then our fiscal team will make the payment. They use the vendor code that was on your contract to electronically deposit the payment. So the account that's associated with that vendor code, that's how you're going to be getting the payment. And then just a little note too, it can take a good amount of time to actually reach your account from when our fiscal team makes that payment. So it can take around 45 business days for that to happen. So just kind of wanted to give you guys the heads up on that part. So now we're going to start going into a little bit more detail on the quarterly reporting forms. So within the next week or so, I'm going to be sending an email to each of your agencies, and that's going to include a link and then an Excel workbook. So the link is right here, and we'll go to that in a minute so you guys can just kind of see like where it brings you. And so you'll start reporting on part A, the programmatic reporting part. That has to do with like any training sessions that you guys completed, just kind of more the programmatic side of things. Once you've completed that, there will then be something at the end that will prompt you to upload the financial portion, which is going to be that Excel workbook that I had sent to you. The Part B financial reporting portions are uploaded as an Excel document after you complete the Part A programmatic report. So it's all one report, but your financial report is that Excel workbook. So I'm just going to click on this link now, and I hope, let's see, that it keeps it on the screen. 1 second. Can you all see that? No? Okay. Yep. Click 1 second. I think I just need to. And then yep, see it. Yep. All right. Can we see it now? Okay, thank you. So this is what it will bring you to. You'll click start. It has the dates here, as you can see. It has my information if you have any questions. And then you'll submit. So for quarter one, you'll submit quarter one. You'll choose quarter one. You'll put in your agency's information here, whoever the grant contact is that is submitting this, your email address and whatnot. So there's the option to save it so that you can save it and come back and do it later. Or you can just go to the next section. And so it's just going to take you through a series of questions for the programmatic side. And then once you're done all those programmatic questions, it'll allow you to upload the Excel workbook along with the supporting documents. 1 second. All right, so we're back to the PowerPoint. Can everybody see that? Okay, great. So, so here's the process for submitting the quarterly reports. So you're going to receive the link and the Excel workbook, probably from me. Then I have around April 1. So it doesn't have to be exactly on April 1, but your reports are due on April 15th. So we generally suggest, to just kind of start around this date, kind of getting all the information you need for the financial part and the programmatic part. So I just have that as kind of like an example date here. So you're going to open the Excel workbook, put in the expenditures for that quarter. You're also going to save any backup documentation that we require. So Steve from our fiscal team is going to go into a little bit more detail with this part. But for some of the services provided, we'll need invoices. We'll need receipts for certain purchases over $1,000. All of this information is in the Excel workbook under each budget category, and we're also going to go over it further, but I just wanted to kind of include that as a step in this process. Then you are going to sign the Excel workbook on the budget summary tab, and we're going to walk through how you can do that as well. And then you want to save that Excel workbook. You're then going to open the quarterly reporting form link, which we just went to, complete all the questions in the programmatic section. Then once again, at the end, there's an option to upload your financial workbook, and then you can also upload the supporting documents as well. So there's two separate things you can upload there. You may not need to upload the invoices and supporting documents depending on what your expenditures were, but that option is there. And then at the end of the form, it asks you to just digitally sign it, and then you submit it. So that's kind of like looking at the process in general. That's kind of the way that you'll go through and do it. And then we're going to talk a little bit more. So this is something a little bit like relatively new that we're trying out as well for electronic signature, since we're trying to be a little bit more electronic over here. So this is something that Steve is going to show you like actually how to do it, but this is kind of like a step-by-step on how you can digitally sign the budget summary page. So as you can see here, you go to Insert, Shapes. There's an option where you can click the scribble option, and you're able to pretty much just sign your signature on the Excel, kind of using this little pencil that it gives you. One thing we wanted to note is you're probably signing two names. You can't like pick up the mouse or unclick the mouse or unclick your finger. You have to do it all in one swoop. So it's a little nuanced. It's a little different. It doesn't have to be perfect, but it's easier than you having to print everything out and sign it and then scan it back to us or whatever. If you have any issues with that and you'd prefer to do things that way, that's totally fine. But this is just a new option that we wanted to provide. And it's very easy, and it saves easy and it works well. So again, Steve's going to walk you through that a little bit, but just kind of wanted to give you the breakdown here. And this PowerPoint is going to be available to everybody, so you can always go back at this and look. So here's the next section. We're going to talk about the financial reporting a little bit more now. So when you're completing the Excel workbook, you want to be sure that all the expenditures that you're inputting are within your approved budget. So your approved budget is the budget that was submitted with your contract documents. I know I went back and forth with a lot of you, kind of working up some budget kinks here and there. So the final budget that we agreed on is your approved budget. So you want to make sure that any spending is within that budget. When I send you your Excel workbook, your approved budget is already going to be put in there. So you don't have to like look for it if you don't have it. It's already going to be in there for you. But I just kind of wanted to make note that all expenditures should be within those categories. And when I talk about budget categories, I mean the personnel, the fringe, the indirect, supplies, contract subawards, all those different categories. You want to make sure you're staying within those approved categories that you have in your budget. I know some of you were group applicants, and so any of your partners, your subawardees, all of that spending is going to go in the contract subawards category. So your subawardees should be submitting all the required information to you as the primary agency, and then you will submit an invoice from the subawardee supporting those expenditures that were incurred during that quarter. And all primary awardees are required to monitor the subawardee. So you guys are responsible for making sure that they get you their invoices and all that kind of stuff. And like I mentioned before, the requirements for each budget category and what we need for invoices and receipts and whatnot, those are all going to be on that Excel workbook under the budget category. You'll see there's a little description and it says what we need from you for that category. And Steve's going to walk you through a little bit of that as well. So now, Steve from our fiscal division, I think is going to start sharing his screen and kind of walk you guys through the Excel workbook and how you're going to actually input your expenditures.
All right, great job, Emily. My name is Steve, budget manager for OGR, and let's go through the different components of the Excel workbook. So when Emily sends over the expenditure workbook, you're going to see that there's going to be many different tabs. The year-to-date breakdown tab will provide the contract start date. Once again, that's going to be the date that Kevin Stanton, our executive director, signed off on the standard contract, the contract end date, your agency name. And then you're going to see the different cost categories filled in with the approved budget of the most current budget you have on file. Just take a little time to review. If something seems like out of line, just let us know. Then you have the quarterly expenditures that populate based on the information that's entered into the different tabs below. You have balances and then the year-to-date cash expenditures with the accumulated totals. So when you begin, reporting for the quarter one, you have the different cost categories and everything should align with what's, on file and approved. But in order to do this, as soon as you open up the expenditure workbook, we recommend that you enable content and enable macros. There should be a banner at the top that allows you to do so. And let's just go through it. So if any personnel is working on the grant, this is the personnel that works for the main applicant. You would enter that information below. Please note that cost in this category should only be for the amount of time that's worked on the grant. So you enter the information, everything's editable. If you need to add an employee, just click the button, add personnel. If you realize that you added too many rows, you could also click into the row that you want to remove and click delete row. So you would want to enter the pay rate of the employee, the amount of hours that employee worked, and a brief description of the job duties performed by that employee. It's important to know that in order for the cash expenditures to populate in column E, a pay rate and quantity will have to be entered in both boxes. So when we go down the line, fringe will tie in to the amount of time or the amount of expenditures worked for that employee. The fringe that's being used should align with what's on the application budget. Then you have a cost category for indirect. You have something for consultants. You have a place for subawards, travel, equipment and technology, supplies, and other. Depending on the cost category, will require you to submit the backup documentation with the reimbursement. This is very important. So something like personnel, fringe, indirect, those records will be kept at a subrecipient site. We'll be conducting site visits just to make sure what's reported on the expenditure workbook is actually what's on the books at your agency. For consultants, all invoices must be submitted with a reimbursement. For the subawards, since the main applicant is responsible for overseeing the subawardee, we just list the amount that the subawardee expended for that period of time. And all you have to do is just do the total amount times 1, then a description of what the subawardee performed in that period of time. For the reimbursement process, we require that the main applicant actually submit a document breaking down all the costs that get to that amount that's being entered there. For travel, all documents related to travel must be submitted. For equipment, any individual pieces of equipment that's valued over $1,000 must be submitted with the reimbursement. For supplies, for any accumulated purchases from any one vendor during that reporting period that accumulate over $1,000, those invoices will be needed. Also, these records will be kept at the subrecipient site unless these expenses fall under something that would, like that, one of the applicable cost categories that would need the invoices. So when we're going through it, you'll notice that all the expenses that populate right here will also populate on the year-to-date breakdown sheet. And you'll notice that the consultant's cost, there's a red flag here, and it's because there was no approved budget. So if you have expenditures that occur that fall outside the approved cost categories, please let OGR know right away. This way we could just address that. Also, when you are finished reporting for that quarter, there's going to be that budget summary page. That's just kind of like an overview of the accumulated costs per cost category. Each quarter will have its own budget summary page. And when you get to the bottom, this is going to be the place that you sign off on. So in order to sign off, you just click into the box next to the completed by signature field. Go to insert at the top, shapes, this little free-form scribble, and with your best try to do a little signature there for me. All right. The date that you're submitting the reimbursement, we'll just use today for the demo. Just print the name of the individual filling out the reimbursement and the email address of that individual. When you do that, just click save at the top and upload it to that freeform website. Now, when it's time to report on Q2, let's just say for whatever reason, maybe no expenses actually occurred for that period of time. There's going to be an option where you can report $0 expenditures for that period. It's going to be a drop down. So if that is the case, just click yes. That'll indicate that $0 is being reported. Since $0 is being reported, none of these other fields will be needed. And if you go to budget summary, Q2, you'll notice that there is a little statement saying, hey, there is $0 expended for this reporting period. We do require that you still fill out the little signature. The date that you're going to be submitting. And save it and send it off. You also notice that the reporting periods here is what was highlighted earlier in the PowerPoint. And then you have different examples of the different cost categories and how to enter the information in. But just so you could see it, let's just say if there was $0 there, we do know that there was nothing reported in budget summary 2. There's nothing reported for the Q2 expenses. So if we just start entering information here. You notice that since no quantity is entered here, there's no cash expenditures. So you would have to enter a quantity, $575. $100. And then you will fill out all the costs associated for that period of time. But you also know that now that we made the changes here, it's going to populate on the year-to-date breakdown page. And it's also going to populate on the budget summary page as well. So any changes that I made, please save and send off. And I believe that's it. Back to you, Emily.
All right, can everybody see the PowerPoint again? All right, so we also have a resource page on our website that we will post any like relevant documents. My information will be there. And I believe we'll post the link to start the programmatic reports as well. Like I said, the budget Excel workbooks that need to be uploaded, those are specific to your agency. So I will be sending those out because we put in your approved budget and whatnot. So those won't be able to be accessed from this page, but that's something that I will be sending out to you guys. We also look forward to scheduling some site visits to come see the awesome work you guys are doing. So once Q1 gets started and everybody gets rolling, I'll be reaching out to do some of that as well. So we are very excited to work with everybody. And I have put our contact information here. So I've pretty much been in contact with all of you so far, but feel free to share this with other people in your agency. Like I said, this meeting was recorded and we're going to post that to this webpage as well, along with the link to the PowerPoint. So you guys will have all this information if you need it. So that'll take a few days for us, but it will be there. And then, like I said, I'll be reaching out to each of you with your Excel workbooks and the link as well. So I don't think I see any questions in the chat. But if anybody has any questions, feel free to ask them now.
Also, if you guys have like any difficulties with completing the expenditure workbook, please feel free to reach out to me at the email listed.
Yes, thanks, Steve.
I just wanted to chime in and say thank you. You know, someone that My name is Dennis Everett. I'm the Director of Restorative Justice for Executive Office of Public Safety. I'm really excited about all of these programs and that have existed and some of the startup ideas. I also want to come out to the site visits. But for people that have been dealing with grants, I hope you're able to see like how OGR and how we're really looking to try to make this easy, accessible, and partner on that side of things. So if there's anything that we maybe don't see or some areas that you think would be helpful moving forward, that information would be valuable to me. And I'll leave my email in the chat. But thank you so much, everyone.
Thank you, Dennis. So Rita asked, is the start date the date the contract is signed? Yep, so your start date is the date that the contract was signed by our executive director, Kevin Stanton. So the date that it was signed on our end is your official start date. And then we have another question. How do we go about updating approved employee rates? Steve, I don't know if you want to talk more about this one. It's a little
Yeah,
fiscal related.
no, definitely. So I would say if like say if the employee rates increase and you really want to stick you know, I mean, with those personnel fringe, if those rates increase, that might take away from another category because you really do have to stick to that award amount. That's pretty much the top dollar there. Just reach out to us. This way we can have a note to the file. And if a budget revision would be needed in order to reallocate funding, we could set something up. And yeah, just give us a heads up, and this way we have the notes in the file on that, and everything's consistent.
Thank you, Steve. And then there's another question. If we're starting late, can we get an extension? Unfortunately, no, these are state funds, so they expire on the state fiscal year, which is June 30th. So unfortunately, as of right now, that I don't believe that that's possible. Any other questions? If not, please feel free to reach out to me. And then if I can answer your question, I will definitely forward it along to somebody who can. We're very excited to work with you guys. And like Dennis said, if there's some areas that we can help you better in and make things easier, please let us know. We're open to that, and we're just very excited to work with all of you. So thank you so much for joining this call. And I look forward to reaching out to all of you within the next week or so. Thank you, everybody.
Thanks.
Thank you. I appreciate you guys doing this for us.